index finger. She was a drug addict and alcoholic, and my stepfather, hyper-abusive. The kind of guy you pray is never your stepfather. And I used to lay in bed at night and cry and pray and ask God, why? Why don't I get a real dad? But he never came, and no one came to rescue me. I spent the majority of my childhood homeless and in poverty. And one time the water company, they turned our water off, and I had to take this little blue bucket and walk across the street to our neighbor's house, turn on their spigot, and for the first time I stole. And I promised myself, Michael, when you get a grown up, you will not have this life. At 12, I got high for the first time. At 13, drunk. And at 15, expelled from school. I was selling drugs, running with guns, hurting people, and breaking the law. By 25, my 3 childhood best friends had been murdered. I was 350 pounds, smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and I put a gun in my mouth. And that's the moment I remember that promise I made to 8-year-old Michael, and I said, when you're a grown up, this won't be your life. And I looked in the mirror, and I asked myself, what are you willing to do to get unstuck? What are you willing to do to be the hero of your own story? What are you willing to do to be unbroken? And I know what you guys are thinking. Holy shit, this guy is like David Goggins and a Lifetime movie. I'm Michael Unbroken, and I'm an advocate for adult survivors of childhood trauma. And I believe that when implemented correctly, the Think Unbroken curriculum can help anyone be the hero of their own story. Now, I don't have enough time to go into detail with you this evening, but you can get more information at thinkunbroken.com. I'm going to give you something right now that you can carry with the rest of your life. What you think becomes what you speak. What you speak becomes your action, and your action becomes your reality. We are the stories we tell ourselves. And the most important lesson you can tell from this is that kindness, clarity, and compassion will take you everywhere. This morning, I looked in the mirror, and tears of joy ran down my face because I was proud for the first time in my life, because I love myself, I honor myself, and I know I'm taking care of that 8-year-old little boy. And if you want to be the hero of your story, you can, but you have to know nobody's coming to rescue you. There ain't no Disney moment, but you have the power. It starts right here. And you're going to have to ask yourself the same 3 questions. What are you willing to do to get unstuck? What are you willing to do to be the hero of your own story? What are you willing to do to think unbroken?
Great speakers do is create contrast. Great speakers create contrast in their volume, and you do a great job at that. There's parts of your presentation where we can barely hear you, and when you get going on the upside of the emotional line. So every presentation has an emotional line. The emotional line of your story is either going up or going down. And this is real simple to figure out what you should do with your voice. When your emotional line is going up, your volume should go up, your pace should go up, your tone should go up. When your emotional line is going down, the volume should go down, the pace should go down. So your story actually starts by going down. You tell us the down part of the story, and you slow your pace, you lower your volume, you do it very nicely. The only place I would probably pause longer, and this won't come as a surprise to you because we talked about it the other day, is when you put the gun in your mouth. You've been dealing with that for a while now, and that's true with a lot of speakers who are telling emotional stories. We've had years to emotionally deal with this. The audience is hearing it for the first time. You've got to pause there and allow the audience to emotionally recover and emotionally deal with what's going on. So you can do what we call treading water. You can stop, you can swallow, you can add a sentence that really doesn't take the story anywhere. You can do a number of things, or just pause. Then when your emotional line turns up, your volume picks up and you start moving more, your movement moves with the emotional line, and your volume picked up super good. So even if you couldn't understand a word he was saying, and those of you watching on Facebook, I don't think you could, because we cut out of Facebook for like 2 seconds there. Even if you couldn't understand the word he was saying, and he was the Charlie Brown teacher up here going, wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. And you want to start up and clap at the end of it, even though we didn't understand a word you were saying. That makes it so emotionally easy for the audience to understand you. I just thought that was amazing.
We got our online coaches. We're on the fire scale. Did that right, John Lee Dumas?
All right. What's going on? So I was taking notes the whole time. So even if I may say a few things that are similar to Pat Quinn. I'm still going to go through them because these were my personal notes for your talk. One thing that I would really encourage you to start doing with this talk is to move with a purpose. You were already initially moving at the point where then you talked about going across the street, so we kind of lost that opportunity there to really have this movement emotion with that very kind of visual part in your talk. So that could be something that you can kind of be very still for until you get there, and that can kind of kick off your initial movements. Also, I think you need to really be cognizant of changing up your motions. You're very repetitive with your hands. You do the same thing over and over and over again, and that kind of gets distracting, and there's a lot of different things you can do with your hands and your body, and then doing nothing sometimes is also doing something, so think about that. Something that I definitely agree with Pat on is you never own the silence, and owning silence is key. You need to let your words actually settle in with the audience at times. You said some very powerful things, and you just kind of were already off to the other sentences. I was trying to think about those things. And if you let it settle in, it's powerful. The audience leans in, and they listen. And that's very important. And I want to, of course, end on a high note because there's a lot of great things about your talk. You know, I'm mostly here personally to try to help you get better. But it was a great talk overall. Your tonality was fantastic. That's one thing that I really listen to as a podcast host, because with audio only, a lot of times that's all we have is tonality. And yours was awesome, where you got really loud at times when you should, and again, you got really quieter and brought people in when you needed to. You could probably even see people in the audience leaning in towards you at that time because they were, not because they couldn't hear you, just that's what we do when we really take things down a notch. And so you just had that in spades. So, you know, congratulations on everything you accomplished in your life. I think it's a fantastic story, and I'm excited for your future.